G'day everyone, welcome back to Blockcast. It is time for the Weekly Rant, where me and Will talk about prices, news, and I guess whatever we want to talk about in the crypto space. Here is my co-host Will. How are you, buddy?
Hey Simon, how's it going?
Yeah, no, going really well today. So we might start off this week with talking about the Bitcoin network and the Bitcoin network being clogged and transactions high. What's going on, Will?
Yeah, somebody decided to build a way to mint NFTs and tokens on top of the Bitcoin network, and that clogged up the network pretty hard. What do you think about that, Simon?
Pretty hard is an understatement. I think the Bitcoin network does, around about 500,000 transactions per day, just because the transactions per second of the Bitcoin network is quite slow. There was like 500,000 transactions all backed up all at once. So there was huge amount of demand for the Bitcoin network. And I saw people posting on Twitter, something like $4,000. So, 0.3, 0.2 of a Bitcoin in fees to try and get your transaction through. So scaling issues for Bitcoin clearly when you are trying to mint NFTs and do DeFi stuff on the Bitcoin network.
I mean, clearly, Bitcoin was never intended to do this. And one of the things that Bitcoin is amazing at is just doing that one thing really well. And the reason that Bitcoin has hardly had any hacks or issues is simply because it has a tiny attack surface. The only thing it's supposed to do is transfer one Bitcoin from one person to another. And so somebody proposed this new standard BRC20, and looks like a lot of people jumped into it. We're in the bull market, and all of these tokens were minted. But I kind of think it's good that the Bitcoin network is being stressed in this way, because at some point or other, Bitcoin is going to become, or should become, a currency that is used a lot. And right now, it's just traders who use it. But I think we need to face the reality that if Bitcoin does grow the way we want it to grow, it will come to a point where it's being used a lot. And at that point, uh, whatever happened last week would be a blip in the network. And Bitcoin needs to figure out how to scale.
Yeah, it's definitely demonstrating that Bitcoin needs to scale. And I would just kind of disagree with what you said at the start there, that Bitcoin was never meant to do this kind of stuff. And kind of
Mm.
was. Like, Bitcoin had the ability, just not a very good ability. I mean, if you go back a long enough time, there was the Bitcoin colored coins discussion about using different colored coins. I mean, that was very much when I was getting into it. I didn't really fully understand it, but that was utilizing Bitcoin to do more than just a function of store of value. And so you've got the Bitcoin maxis who are probably not happy about the Bitcoin network being used in this way. They don't want these NFTs. They don't want this DeFi applications coming onto their network because they want it to remain this pristine collateral. And I get that.
Mm.
And I
Mm.
also can see that people want to utilize this because Bitcoin is still it's the idol of the crypto market. And if you can add these elements to it, then you're just adding more functionality to it. You're going to add more adoption. But Bitcoin now
Mm.
has to scale. Whereas previously, store of value, digital gold, it didn't need to be fast. It was doing what it needed to be doing as it was. Now, layer twos for Bitcoin is very essential.
And I guess to add on to your point is that, well, some people can say Bitcoin was only meant to do one thing, but then the beauty of blockchain is that it's permissionless. And now somebody has decided to use Bitcoin to create things that are similar to ERC20's NFTs. And I guess, like it or not, there's people minting these tokens and there's people trading them. And if this catches on, it will increase the burden on the Bitcoin network significantly. And they will have to figure out how to go around that.
Yeah, and I think the downside that I see from it, I mean, I'm all for innovating and I'm all for people trying new things, but I think at the end of the day, the difficulties, as you know, you would know this better than me, but developing these kind of things in the Bitcoin network, which is not very well set up for. It's not very well set up for smart contracts compared to Ethereum. That the difficulties of doing that and the challenges in trying to make it do the things that Ethereum can do, make it a big hurdle. And then on top of that is that it's going to push back institutions investing in the space because now they're like, well, hang on, now I don't understand what Bitcoin is at all again. And so that's the big downside that I see, is that people are innovating and playing around, but we may be pushing away people who have big money to put in space, because now they're going, I don't understand what's going on anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really tempting to build on top of Bitcoin. It is extremely secure. It's proof of work, and there's so many machines just running it. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to keep happening. And every bull market, things like this are probably going to happen. And yeah, Bitcoin will have to scale. I do remember way back when I think they wanted to increase the size of I forget what the argument was. I think they wanted to increase the size of Bitcoin's
Block
mempool or
space.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that was maybe 2017, 2018, and there's a whole big debate around that as well. And I guess Bitcoin solved that, but now they've got something else to solve, and
Well, that's
it's
what occurred back
yeah.
then, was the Bitcoin forking wars, where Bitcoin Cash got created, because there was a
Mhm.
Bitcoin Cash crowd which wanted, faster transactions and more block space, and the original Bitcoin maxis who wanted to stay as it was, and so they forked. And so
Mm.
people are talking about now, is Bitcoin going to fork again, because these people don't want this element on there? And I personally don't want that to happen anymore. I think that would be very bad for the space if Bitcoin had to go through another kind of forking war.
Mm.
Uh, it wasn't good for the space back
Yeah.
then. It won't be good for the space back right now either.
Yeah, and back then, at least forks meant something. But now there's so many blockchains and with specialized use cases. Like a fork could just be somebody trying to get maybe a cash. I mean, it was back then, but today would even be more of a cash grab. And yeah, I'd rather,
I
like
don't.
you, I'd rather see this whole thing. Yeah. Mhm.
I was gonna say, I don't think it's a cash grab. I think it would be trying to make Bitcoin go back to its original state without these NFTs and DeFi elements coming onto it. They want it to go back to being just the store of value. But I just think that'd be bad for the space, right? You can't see another Bitcoin fork going on, and not just like
Mm.
a copy, like a Litecoin kind of fork. This would be a proper war, like the Bitcoin Cash war. That would be bad
Yeah.
for the space.
Yeah, I'm actually not a fan of the whole Bitcoin is a store of value. I mean, it is, but then I feel like it was kind of a cop out in that, well, it's not trading as fast as we want. Transactions might be a little bit expensive, therefore, it's a store of value. But the whole point in Bitcoin initially was to be a currency and a store of value. Um, well, essentially, it was to make it to be money, and money is a currency and a store of value. So here's to Bitcoin, and I'm really glad that it's being stressed out like this. I think it'll come out stronger, and let's hope they figure out this the scaling wars soon.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on to
Mm.
the next item we want to talk about today. Is Bittrex US files for
Mm.
bankruptcy. So Bittrex, I mean, back in the day was the biggest exchange out there. From what I recall, at one point, it was definitely the king. What's happening there,
Yeah.
Will?
Well, looks like there's Bittrex Global and Bittrex US, and it sounds like the SEC has been handing out subpoenas to everybody. It's almost like Oprah's being like, "You get a subpoena, you get a subpoena," and recently it was Coinbase, and now it's Bittrex, and it looks like Bittrex has given up. Um, I guess working in the US, there's too many things to comply with. And they've actually sent out a letter when they said that they were leaving the US, is they first filed for bankruptcy. And of course, everybody was kind of worried about that. And they said, don't worry about it. Your funds are safe. You can withdraw anytime you want. And they said that they were withdrawing from the US and just maintaining Bittrex Global because they just couldn't get enough clarity from the SEC. And they said that they tried to work with them for years, and the thing is, I've worked for companies that have also been approached by the SEC, and from the outside, the way the SEC puts it is as if, oh, look at this company, look at all these illegal things it's been doing, but really internally, these companies do really try hard. They've got lawyers trying to help them, but Bittrex said that the they actually asked the SEC to tell them which of these tokens should we not be allowing trade for in the US. Let us know and we'll pull them out. But the SEC couldn't give them that information. And as usual, they followed the pattern of regulating not through clarity but through enforcement. And so I guess Bittrex has had it, and they've moved out of the US.
Yeah, I imagine it's a huge thing for these companies to decide that obviously the US market is enormous. It's not exactly a small market, so they definitely want to be there. There's a lot of money to be made for these companies, but something like Bittrex leaving is just a case of this is so hard to work here in the US that we're willing
Mm,
to just walk away from it, which is,
mm,
very, very tough business decision to make. So
yeah.
I think it's just another example of how the US regulations are really starting to hurt. And Coinbase, they started their Coinbase International simply because of the same thing. They're like going, it's too hard to work within you guys, so we're creating our separate company. Binance is the same. FTX was doing the same. The US is hard,
Mm,
and they're making it harder.
mm,
And it's not great for crypto space because we want the US market in this space.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we do want the U.S. market in this space, but they are making it pretty difficult. And I think you just mentioned FTX, so this is pretty interesting. There's some news on our favorite character, Sam Bankman. Looks like he's looking to dismiss the charges against him. And these, yeah.
It's pretty good, isn't it? But when you dig into it more, I guess the headline is that he's trying to dismiss the charges against him, but he's not trying to dismiss all the charges. It looks like he's trying to get it out of a criminal case into, I don't know, some more basic level of prosecution against him. I don't
Mm,
understand the law system. Basically, to me, he's trying to dismiss the really bad one, which means he goes to jail for a very long time, to maybe just the company is in trouble. That was my kind of take on it, is that he's not saying that there's nothing to hear. He's just saying that
mm.
it's not a criminal case. You shouldn't be going after me specifically and potentially putting me behind bars for years. That was my take. What was yours?
I think that was my take as well, but I feel like he's really got an uphill battle, and I look at all these charges. It's conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and then there's wire fraud, then there's communities fraud, there's securities fraud, there's money laundering. I mean, it's one after another. There's fraud on investors, fraud on lenders. They've got so many things that they're trying to pin on him that I think that it's definitely going to be an uphill challenge. But I think I think what's really important is trying to uh, compensate the people that he affected, and also trying to make it so that this doesn't happen again. And I feel like the SEC, rather than going after companies that are actually trying to do the right thing and really providing guidelines, these are the kind of things I think they should really be trying to prevent, and actually creating, I suppose, guardrails that help us, the users, try and figure out, what's good for us, and also help companies know, yes, I can do this, no, I cannot do this. We want to see audits. But I'm sure it's not that easy to implement, but yeah, some Bankman.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're sitting there saying, look, I'm not the only crypto company that went bankrupt. So why aren't you treating the other crypto companies the same? And I think the answer comes
Mm,
down to, again, we're not lawyers, but the answer comes down to those other companies went bankrupt just from poor business decision and poor investing decisions with money. Whereas, Sam, you were taking people's money and going gambling with it. That was the big
mm.
difference, and that's why you've got criminal charges against you. I think he's
Yeah,
got no hope
that's
of getting out of this. I think he's going to go to jail. So
yeah, yeah.
let him get his time in the sun, trying to reduce his sentence as anybody would. But I think he's still going to go to jail.
I wonder what it all adds up to. I wonder if we'll
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, this the
Well,
story the story will go on for years and years and years. We're going to constantly
yeah.
hear about this still popping up. It's going to be a stain on the industry for years and years to come.
Mm,
This will go through the
mm.
courts for a long time. So unfortunately, this won't be the last time we ever talk about FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah, we'll
But
definitely keep a
it's
watch on him. And meanwhile, our friend Pepe, how's he doing in the market?
crashing. Pepe is crashing. So, not to be shocked by anyone who's been in the space, but meme coins go up, meme coins definitely come down. And so, I'm just
Mm,
going to quickly jump on and have a look how far it's fallen. Let's have a quick look there.
yeah,
So, it's
I,
down like 70% from its all-time high. So look, this is crypto. It's volatile. It
Mm,
can go down just as quickly as it can go up. And so if you were in early, very early to Pepe, you're still very much so in the green. But if you've only
mm.
been in it for the last, week, then you're very much so down.
Do you know, I'm surprised that Pepe still has a fairly decent amount of liquidity. I'm looking at $8 million. It had gone all the way up to 16 around. And I thought to myself, well, if the price starts to drop, everybody who's got their LP tokens in Uniswap, let's say, it's a mix of, let's say, Pepe and ETH, they'll probably be like, oh my God, I'd better get rid of my LP, take my Pepe and sell it. But it looks like the liquidity is still there, which is kind of surprising. And I don't know, I feel like the price didn't drop as quickly as I thought it would. And I don't know what you think. To me, it feels like it's stabilizing, but it might just be me.
Well, it might be stabilizing because I'm looking at the Shiba Inu chart now, and Shiba Inu had the same kind of thing. It had this astronomical rise in on May of 2021, and then it would have easily dropped a good 80% then, and then it basically stabilized out until the end of 2021, where it had another astronomical rise. So we mentioned before that Pepe has definitely gotten broken out of just being a shit coin. It's definitely a
Mm.
big movement meme coin. And I wouldn't count it out. I'm not going to say it's going to go to zero. I think it might have the staying power of the Dogecoin, the Shiba Inu, to be around for some time in the future. And I wouldn't be surprised if it could return
Mm.
to some of its previous all-time highs and go higher in the next bull market because it's got that momentum behind it now. I wouldn't put
Oh
any money in
yeah.
it though.
Oh yeah. And speaking of not counting it out, looks like Pepe had a pretty challenging week, but looks like he came out on top. And it started out with Coinbase sending out this mail. And to quote, they sent it to all their followers. They say Pepe, which was issued around 3 weeks ago, with a comically huge supply of 420 trillion tokens, has been leading the meme coin activity. And they say it's based on Pepe the Frog, but they mention that over time it has been co-opted as a hate symbol by alt-right groups, according to the Anti-Defamation League. And that pissed off Pepe fans a lot.
Yeah. Again, this is just the weird craziness of crypto. Like when I read that, I was like, I don't even know what is Coinbase even doing this for. Like that made no sense for Coinbase to be leaning into that and to letting people know it's an alt-right hate symbol. Like why would they care? Like that's so out of character for them. So that was odd. But I get it. I get the Pepe community. Like I think it's got the cultural community behind it, just like
Yeah, I
Shiba, just
mean,
like Doge, and they got people
yeah,
defending it.
yeah. I mean, first of all, to agree with you, I don't really get Coinbase's thing because, yeah, Pepe is a meme. It's used a lot of places, but so are other things. So is English, you know. So, but yeah. So it really pissed off the Pepe community, and I saw this trending on Twitter: delete Coinbase, and and there's these people tweeting that they'd canceled their Coinbase membership, and that's kind of crazy. But then the interesting thing is that Pepe has become so big that the who is it? The chief legal officer this morning says tweets and he says, "We screwed up and we are sorry. Yesterday we shared an overview of the Pepe meme coin to provide a fact-based picture of a trending topic." And he says that this did not provide the whole picture of the history. And so he apologized to the community. That's the chief legal uh, officers. But then the funny thing is that these Pepe guys aren't satisfied. There's a meme that goes, there's a tweet that goes from a Pepe member. Uh, wow, now I've got apologies from a random staff account. Not enough. And he says that he wants it from the CEO of Coinbase to apologize. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
really loving this
think
coin. Yeah.
I think there's obviously a lot of very strong backing, very huge group that have got an attachment to Pepe. I hope Brian
Mm,
Armstrong just ignores it because this is just noise for him. And I think
yeah.
Coinbase should steer clear of commentating on coins like that. That's my take on it. I don't think they should have got involved in it. I hope Brian Armstrong doesn't get involved in it because it's not really of concern for him, I don't feel.
Mm,
And look, if Pepe people cancel their Coinbase membership, I'm sure that's a very small percentage of the people
mm,
who would have done that. It's a mere
yeah.
blip on Coinbase's record. I think they should move on, and I think the Pepe culture just flexed their muscle and shown that the coin could stick around because there's probably a lot of people who aren't going to sell.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the lesson here for Coinbase is don't talk about Pepe.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
speaking of funny things, mate, this last one I don't know what about. Take my muffin. What in the hell are you talking about?
Oh my God, this is such an interesting show. I bumped into it a couple of weeks ago, and they've released a couple of episodes and have these zany characters, and they kind of remind me of Rick and Morty. And so at first, I just thought it was a really interesting show that is about startups and raising money and investors and VCs, and it kind of paints the ugly and funny side of this whole market that we're in. But then the really interesting thing is that it's sponsored by 1inch, and
One
and
inch
how they
music
got
aggregator.
exactly. And how they started out was they got these artists and producers, and these guys said, well, they're kind of tired of producing in Coinbase and producing in places like Netflix and Amazon because to use their words, they said that it's kind of getting the same haircut. When you want to make your story in these places, you have to conform to certain standards, make it kind of what they tell you. You don't have creative liberties. And so they just pretty much sold NFTs and Take My Muffin coin, TMM. And this sponsored the first couple of episodes. They've only got 4 or 5 out, and it might go up to 7. And what a cool use of NFTs, because if you sponsor this or if you own the token of the NFTs, you get a share of however much, I guess, money this project is eventually going to raise. I don't think it's raised too much right now because it's just on YouTube, but I think it does have a pretty decent following and it's got really good art. What do you
All
think,
right.
Simon? Yeah.
I have no strong take on this, mate, because I haven't seen it, but I will go and watch it and go have a look. By the sounds of it, it's just a bit of a light side and funny side of looking at crypto markets and startups in general. So maybe it's good for a bit of a laugh. Maybe not for me.
Oh yeah, but I think what's also interesting is that it's kind of showing us another way, like another use case for NFTs. So outside of just being a picture kind of thing, well, now NFTs can go towards sponsoring the arts. Radio, music, TV, pretty much, and so now the viewers can become the sponsors, and this is so much better than just putting something on Indiegogo. I can do that. I can go to Indiegogo and sponsor something and get a free T-shirt or something like that, or an autograph. Or I can buy an NFT for something and pretty much have a share in the show if it does well. So I just found it pretty interesting. Yeah,
it's awesome to see more NFT use cases, and as we go forward, definitely see them become more and more culturally acceptable and more easily accessible. And we just know this is the future. We're going towards this path, and Take My Muffin is obviously just demonstrating another way of using NFTs for good.
Oh yeah, pretty amazing. Well, I guess that's it for today's rant. Thanks so much, Simon. This was amazing.
Awesome. Well, catch you next time.
All right, till next time.